Amendment Bill 2022. This Council resumes the second reading debate on the Births and Deaths Registration Amendment Bill 2022. Does any member wish to speak? Mr. Gary Chan. Thank you, Madam Deputy. I speak in support of this bill. As you know, that if your friends or family passes away, it brings heartbreak. Apart from having to handle funeral arrangements, you will have to go through a very difficult time. The Births and Deaths Registration Ordinance is just a piece of legislation. However, the proposed improvement shows that the government cares. The proposed amendments will improve the quality of public service by streamlining the procedure. This is in answer to the Audit Commission's report. Under Section 14 of the ordinance, when a person dies in a house or outside a house, a registration must be done. That is inflexible. For unnatural deaths, under the coroner's ordinance, a report has to be made to the coroner. So in Section 14, bracket 2, when a relative or a friend has to make a registration, it is a duplication. The proposed amendment is a reasonable arrangement because they have not neglected the rights of the survived the rights of the deceased, and they have taken into account the difficulties of the survived people. Well, when death occurs in a place that is not a house, within 24 hours, a person will have to make a registration. However, according to the Audit Commission's report, there are a lot of unnatural death cases that have not complied with the registration within 24 hours requirement. I think this is related to the change of mentality. There are some new ideas that some people, knowing that they will pass away soon, would like to make arrangements to pass away at home. Some of them don't want to notify anyone else. After they have died, the friends, perhaps having not been able to reach them, would go to visit only to find that they have passed away. So if there is a requirement of registration within 24 hours, that simply could not be done. And for people who are about to pass away, they would like to be accompanied by friends and family. And they would like to spend some time together to go over their lives and say their goodbyes. They say their farewell in a peaceful manner. And in this circumstance, who would remember the requirement under Section 14 to make a registration within 24 hours of the death? So with the change of mentality, there is a need to update the ordinance. I support the amendment to allow registration to be done within 14 days after a death. This will not be an undue burden on the family members who survived, and it will also make sure that a registration is done. Within 24 hours of a death, families and friends are too heartbroken to think about administrative arrangements. So the extension of that time is a humane approach. It is also reasonable. Well, whether it is a new life born or a life that has passed away, families and friends will have a lot to do. What we can help is to reduce administrative burden. So in relation to the streamlining of the administrative requirement, I fully agree with that. The proposed arrangement also allows the Immigration Department to accept electronic registration. So people don't have to go in person to make the registration. This is a good move by taking into account a technological amendment, improvement. I so submit to support the bill. Mr. Dr. David Lam, I speak in support of the Births and Deaths Registration Amendment Bill 2022. People who die of natural deaths often choose to stay at home. Say, for example, someone who is terminally ill with cancer. They choose to stay in an environment that they're familiar with, surrounded by dear friends and family. Doctors very often allow that to happen and are willing to certify death. Now there is an extension of registration from within 24 hours to within 14 days. This is a humane approach, a caring approach. But I'd like to say that the current requirement is within 24 hours for the issuance of a certificate of death. And when it is public holidays or Sundays, one can still go to get the certificate. When someone dies of a natural cause at home, the current law requires that the body not to be moved before the issuance of a death certificate. If it is the case that someone dies over public holiday, the doctor has already signed the certificate, but family members have yet to receive the certificates of death. It's something that you have to go to Cotton Tree Drive to get it. Without the death certificate, that means the body will have to stay untouched at the same place until it is obtained. In order to allow swift receipt of the certificate, the registry opens over public holidays and Sundays. Now that the registration can be done electronically and you don't have to go there in person if it's a case of a natural death, and when all relevant documents are in place, say for example a doctor's certificate, you can obtain the certificates of death online, and in this way you will be able to take care of the body. I speak in support of the bill. Thank you. Does any member wish to speak?
Mr. Lai Tong-Kuo. Madam Deputy, I speak in support of the bill. If we look at the clauses of the bill, it's based on the UK Act of 1874, and now it's already 2023. The provision enacted back then are out of touch with modern times. So I'm very pleased that the Security Bureau has accepted the Director of Audit's recommendation, so that sufficient time will be allowed for making the registrations. And I'm also glad to learn that many services provided by the Immigration Department will be electronic services. And this time, the death registration can also be done electronically. This would reduce the burden of the relevant relatives. So I speak in support of the bill. If no other member wish to speak, I now invite the Secretary call upon the Secretary for Security to reply. Then the debate will come to a close. Secretary, first of all, I'm grateful to members who have expressed support for this Births and Death Registration Amendment Bill 2022, and we have completed the second reading debate. I'm grateful to the members, the three members who have spoken on the bill and their support. And I also want to thank Mr. Lai Tung Kwok for his appreciation of the work of the Immigration Department. Now, this bill has received the first and second reading. The bill proposes to amend the Birth and Death Registration Ordinance so as to extend the statutory time limit for reporting and registering death, and also to provide a legal basis for providing electronic services for registration. There are four parts. First, in the bill, to update the provisions on death registration to reflect that the current arrangement whereby death is differentiated according to whether it's due to natural causes or not. Second, we have extended the time limit for statutory time limit from 24 hours to 14 days. And we also delete the requirement of completing the forms in the presence of a registrar, and also to provide a legal basis for the introduction of electronic services for certain registration. And we're also going to go for an adaptation of the law, and we would delete any reference to any medical officer in any branch of Her Majesty's service, which is not in line with our legal status as a special administrative region of the PRC. I thank all members for their comments. I would like to respond to Dr. Lam Chi Yun's comments. We fully understand that for the relatives of the deceased, they would very much like to handle the body of the deceased quickly. Now that the time limit has been extended to 14 days, but it doesn't mean that people have to wait for 14 days. We would encourage people to do it expeditiously, and the Cotton Tree Drive office would be operating around the clock as usual. For this particular bill and the amendments, the Immigration Department has been making preparations to update its system and to introduce electronic services. When this bill is passed, the new electronic services would take effect, will be implemented on the 31st of March 2023. The Immigration Department would promote through different channels the new electronic services for the registration of death and births, and to inform the public that the statutory time limit for registration will be extended to 14 days, from 2 hours to 14 days, and also there will be different arrangement for death registration according to whether it's a cause is natural or not. As for the promotion of electronic services, the Immigration Department will work with the Department of Health, the Hospital Authority, and relevant medical organizations to distribute pamphlets and put up posters to the parents of newborn babies, so as to publicize the information. As for the electronic services and the new arrangements, the Immigration Department will liaise with the hospitals and also communicate with the undertakers and their trade representatives through the FEHD to disseminate the information, so that there will be a close cooperation between the relevant departments and to ensure the smooth operation of the new system. With these remarks, I move the second reading of the bill. I hope members will support the bill. So I submit.
And I put the question to you that the Births and Deaths Registration Amendment Bill 2022 be read the second time. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by majority of members present. I declare the motion passed. Births and Deaths Registration Amendment Bill 2022. This council now becomes committee of the whole council.